More ancient history jewelry stories. While doing research for some future videos recently, I came across something interesting. I realized that as I was doing research, I kept coming across different examples of ancient Egyptian frog rings. They spanned at least 1,500 years, if not 2,000, and they were made of all different kinds of materials. Of course, this got me thinking, why frogs? Frogs are very cute. Who doesn't love a frog? But I didn't think that was enough justification to explain these hundreds of examples of ancient frog rings. After doing a little digging, I came up with the answer. Frogs represent fertility, creation, rebirth, and resurrection in ancient Egypt. They were associated with the goddess Heqet, who appeared in the form of a frog or a frog-headed woman. She was very specifically the goddess of the end of childbirth and the fertilization of corn crops. She was associated with the cow-headed goddess of motherhood and birth, Hathor. There are two things about Heqet that I really like. She was the wife of Khnum, who created the bodies of new children on his potter's wheel. And there is some evidence to suggest that the name Heqet is the origin of the Greek name Hecate. Hecate was famously the ancient Greek goddess of witchcraft and also doorways. One reason why frogs were so important to the ancient Egyptians is because every year after the flooding of the Nile, millions of them would just appear seemingly out of nowhere. This led to the belief in ancient Egypt that frogs were generated from the mud of the Nile itself. You can see how this would cause them to be seen as a fairly magical creature. Because Heqet was a goddess associated with childbirth and fertility, frog rings were worn by women who were hoping to conceive and have an easy pregnancy and birth. Because Heqet was also associated with resurrection, specifically rebirth into the afterlife, frog rings and amulets were also often part of funerary goods. Knowing the significance of these frog rings doesn't make them any less adorable. I love that in almost every instance, these frogs look like they are ready to jump away. Worship of the goddess Heqet continued on into early Christianity, where she was even more associated with resurrection. Eventually, as polytheism was phased out in favor of Christianity, so was Heqet and the ubiquitous frog ring.